Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for the third in our 2021 series of lockdown Q&As. Tonight's guest is Darren Gough, former captain of Yorkshire and the driving force behind England's bowling attack throughout the 1990s. He was also the first cricketer to win Strictly Come Dancing. In a minute, John Fingleton will introduce our guest, but in the meantime, please forgive me for repeating what I say every time. Would you all please make sure that your microphones are muted unless you are asking a question. Our first two questions this evening come from Peter Hart and John Wilson, so would you both please be ready when Fingers concludes his opening remarks. Now, we may have some time for a couple of additional questions, so if you'd like to ask Darren anything, please use the Zoom chat facility and address your questions to me or my co-hosts Paul Graber or Stuart Lewis. Fingers.
Thank you very much, James. And it is a huge, as always, a huge pleasure to introduce these famous cricketers, but none more so, I think, than Dazzler. I first was really aware of him. I was sitting in the grandstand, no, in the tavern stand box at Lord's on the, was it the 1st of July 2000, and I look at the scorecard, hang on, 2000, at the 100th Test match at Lord's. And it was the one day where there were 4 innings in a Test match against the West Indies, 4 innings in the day. And at one stage, a ball was hit towards the tavern stand boundary, and a bloke from underneath the Allen stand ran about 80 yards and took the catch on the fly. And that was Darren Gough. And it was one of the most amazing catches I've ever seen. Knocked the pants off anything that Colin Bland or what's his name, Rhodes could have done. But the other important thing, he and I almost share a birthday. He doesn't know this. I'm the 15th of September and he's the 17th. Another little item of interest is he was Kevin Peterson's best man, which is an improbable concept. I can't imagine what that wedding was like. But I also know his speechwriter on the occasion. And he's famed for swinging the ball late. He won, as James said, Strictly the year before. He set the trend for cricketers doing it because he won it first year and then Mark Ramprakash won it the next. And he's also won the Christmas special twice. But he was described by Shield Berry towards his retirement as, it was said of him that retirement is unlikely to be too quiet. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Dazzler Darren Gough to our latest MIOLP Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I just remembered I was meant to talk about one of the things I meant to introduce is the fact that I didn't know he is involved in wine, and he was suggested that I might just refer to the fact that he has an interest in the wine industry, from both ends of a bottle, I believe.
Well, I actually do. Good evening, everyone. I actually do love wine. As I've grown older, now I'm past 50, very much love wine. But it's not something, obviously, I've got a financial hold of. I do it purely for charity. Me and my wife do a lot of work for a charity called Care for Wild. And I came up with an idea, sat over dinner with a friend of mine called Robin Copestick, who was half of Faisanet Copestick, which is a famous, obviously, wine alcoholic brand. It's the posh bottle Prosecco with a real diamond cut glass. And I came up with this idea. Nobody's ever done a wine for charity. And he said, leave it with me. He'd sold this part of the Copestick name, so we were looking to do other things. He asked to stay with them for a few years. And we came up with this wine, and 7 different bottles, 7 different blends. And we've won gold awards, silvers, bronze, and it's only been going 6 months. The charity's already made well over £10,000 in such a short time. We're over the moon with it. And I actually love drinking it as well. Just to give you an idea what it looks like, each bottle has got a different rhino. This is Odin. This is the protected range. He's a black rhino. There's only 5,000 of them left in the world. And this is the entry-level wine, which is a white. This is Ruby Bell on the front. Ruby Bell is a baby rhino that was orphaned. Obviously, mother killed for the horn. And there's the calf there, Ruby Bell. So each bottle represents a different one of the little rhinos at the orphanage. So it's gone really well, and I'm really pleased.
Where do we find the wine if we want to buy some, Darren?
Well, at the minute, it's been all online. There's a wine company called Jascots. Most people who like buying wine would know that company. or you can go to Slurp, www.slurp.co.uk, and order it online. You just put Careful Wild Wines, and there's 7 different bottles, whether it be a Sauvignon Blanc, whether it be a Syrah Vaugnier, whether it be a Shiraz, whether it be a Chenin Blanc, whether it be a Rosé for the summer. The cricket season is here, guys. It's Rosé season. The Lord's Test match is just round the corner.
Hooray. Thank you very much. Well, our first question comes from Peter Hart. Peter.
Okay. Thanks, Darren. Thanks for coming this evening. One of my favourite memories of you is playing in Australia in the 1998-99 Ashes. I think you got 21 wickets in the series, but in particular the Christmas and New Year Test matches. In Melbourne, they only needed 175 to win, and you and Dean Headley bowled them out on the 4th day. And in the last, you got the last 2 wickets. I remember you got Stuart McGill and then Glenn McGraw LBW, and you had a stump aloft in your hand. I remember the picture very well.
I better not tell you what I said.
Okay. And then the next test, you got a hat trick, didn't you, at Sydney? You got they were 230 odd. They had runs, didn't they? And then you got who did you get? You got Ian Healy caught behind, and Stuart McGill again middle stump, and Colin Miller hat trick, the first hat trick, Ashes hat trick by an England bowler for 100 years. So
there's not been one since either, I don't think.
Wow. Wow, it gets even better, Darren. But fantastic cricket, and what a golden era. But what are your memories of those Australians? Because there were some really colourful players, weren't there? Some great players on both sides. But what were your memories of those Australians with, Steve Waugh and his brother, and Glenn McGrath and Healy, and, Mark Taylor was just finishing, wasn't he? But it was a great side.
Well, do you know something? 94, I first came across that Australian side. It was my first tour with England. And I got, I think, 21 wickets in 3 tests that series, before obviously injury took hold, and I came home early after 3 test matches. I was going for the record there. I was flying as a young, enthusiastic fast bowler, and so I never really had any fear of the Australians in that first series. It only came to a head really when they came over to England, and I saw how good they were in '97. Gilchrist had come into the side. They still had Steve Waugh and Mark Waugh and Ponting, and players like that were coming through, and Langer, and they were a terrific side, really tough to beat. And what was tough about it, England went through a rough spell, didn't they, in the late 80s and the early 90s. And it took us, I would say, when I first started, it was a seriously issue within the England camp, and we were scarred, really, until that first test in '97, if you remember at Edgbaston, when we beat them. There was started a small belief that we had a team together who could beat Australia. It never happened. They were fantastic. We went there in '98, '99, and I thought we gave some good performances as a team. The Melbourne test was sensational. We had a bowling attack with me and Dean Headley, which the only one we were missing is Andy Caddick. I still can't believe Andy Caddick didn't get picked for that tour. It's an absolute head wobble. And that was the problem we had, wasn't it, in the 90s, playing against a great Australian side who had continuity in selection. And for us, England, little England, it was a period of not quite knowing where we were going. And there was too many players. We had 1 or 2 bad test matches. You were out of the team, someone else came in. And I never really truly bowled with my dream bowling attack for England, which would have been myself and Caddick. It would have been Dominic Cork and probably Dean Headley. They were the best 4 bowlers I bowled with, and I don't think we ever played in an attack together, and that's quite sad, really, when you consider I played over a long period of time, and they did too, and that attack would have bowled out most players.
Darren, that's fantastic. That's really great memories. That's a really good answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Darren. John Wilson. John's got a few questions for you. I think he's going to ask you a couple now, and then perhaps come back at the end for a third. John.
No problem.
Darren, good evening. And like I was just mentioned, thank you so much for doing this. So my couple of pies for you to knock about. Firstly, which 3 bowlers most inspired you during your playing career, and why?
Ooh. Well, first one has to be Ian Botham, I think, purely because I always believe growing up you get to an age of around 11, which I was, which was 1981. And most of my sporting heroes were from that era. Glenn Hoddle from a footballer, although he didn't inspire me, obviously, to bowl fast. He inspired me to try and do 100 kick-ups. Ian Botham, 81 Ashes, was out of this world. So that was it was a massive inspiration for me in 81. Malcolm Marshall, who absolutely an unbelievable man, an unbelievable bowler, who was probably of similar height to me, who could swing the ball both ways, probably with a stranger action than most people would expect from a fast bowler. Mm-hmm. So it showed to me, but it's not about your action, it's about your wrist position. And I'm stuck between, when I was growing up, between Richard Hadlee and Kapil Dev. I can't quite split them. Richard Hadlee was just smooth, but Kapil Dev, to play the way he did, bowling in a country like India on some of the flat pitches, he must have had something special in it. So I think it was an era of all-rounders, really, wasn't it? That kind of inspired most of my kind of age group. As I got older, the ones that were the final nail in my education to be a fast bowler was Wasim and Waqar. When they came to England in 92, and every test match, England were 100 for none, and then ended up 150 all out. I thought, we're missing a trick here, surely. There's got to be something in this reverse swing. And really, I practiced and practiced and practiced until I mastered it. And there was a period, like I said, between 94 and 2001, before I got my injury, where I fancied getting a wicket with a Yorker at least once a game, whether it be a test match, whether it be a one-day international, until I got the injuries and I lost that extra yard of pace that I had, well, 2 yards of pace. It worked for me, and I can't complain. So they inspired me massively in I think it was 92, wasn't it? 92, Pakistan toured England, and that was a huge inspiration for me.
And when you look back at your career now, your playing career rather than your broadcasting career now, what would you say are your 3 most treasured memories of that, and why would you select those 3 over some of the other great stories you've already given us this evening?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many, but playing for England, the biggest memories for me were winning in the dark in Pakistan.
Okay.
Nobody expected us to win that series. Let's be honest about it. Nobody expected us to win in Sri Lanka, and we did the double that winter, which was. I remember us all doing the escape to victory whistle on the plane home on the Pakistan Airlines flight back to the UK. It was hilarious. Every single player doing the whistle. The hat-trick obviously has to be up there as a personal milestone. It was special. It goes so quick, you don't actually realise how quick it's going, and then it's there, it's happened. And I think that first 5-4, which was in 2001 at Lord's, I'd had so many 4-4s. I think I've got 6 or 7. I don't know exactly how many at Lord's. And to finally get on there, which ended up being really my last serious test match, if you don't count the one I came back for with one leg, 2003, after 2 years injured. I would say that's a serious memory to be on the honours board. I know I'm there for one-day cricket, there's on signs. But to get in a test match, out of all the grounds you want to do it at, it's Lord's, it's special, it means so much to you. And so they're really the 3 standouts.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, John. And we'll hopefully have you back again at the end. Well, the next question comes from my co-host, Paul Graber. Paul.
Yeah, thank you, James. It's a gentle long hop outside off stump. And I think your answer to Peter Hart a few minutes ago has probably given me a big clue. Simply, which gave you more pleasure, 6 for 49 at Sydney or winning Strictly Come Dancing?
Well, listen, 5-4, 6-4 is always great, isn't it? Sydney, that was an unbelievable performance. Everything happened for me that day. But the Strictly one it's ridiculous when I think about it. It really is. I was on a stag do in Portobellouse when they asked me to do it. So you can imagine what my response was when they first asked me to do it. I've been asked to do another couple of reality shows. I'll not tell you which ones. Well, I can tell you one of them. One was Love Island, which was a celebrity version of Love Island, right? It was the first one that was ever on TV. It's now massive in this country. But the first one, way back in, I think it was, it would have been 2005, wouldn't it? Was Celebrity Love Island. And the idea of the show was to get put on an island with loads of other celebrities and see what happens. I was single at the time. And I seriously thought about it, but I just didn't think it would be a good career move. So I'm glad I didn't do that one. I got asked to do another one, but I'm scared of everything, so that didn't happen. And then Strictly came along, and it was my mum, really. My mum just said, listen, you'll be rubbish. You'll be out in week one, but it'll be a great experience. As they always say, mums do. It'll be a great experience, life experience. You'll regret it if you don't do it. So I did it. I came back straight into rehearsal. I didn't really take it serious, if I'm honest. That first 2 weeks practice, everybody else were doing Colin Jackson and Zoe Ball and James Martin. I came to, they're all doing 7 hours a day. I said, 7 hours a day? I said, I want to see my kids. I want to play golf. I want to go to the gym. I said, well, how am I going to fit in 7 hours? No, you've got to get rid of all that. You've got to do 7 hours a day. So to be fair, the first 2 or 3 weeks, I took it as a bit of, I'm going to be out anyway. And I did 2 hours a day. But once I got past that first week, scraped through week one, I just thought, hey, why not? I upped it to 5 hours. And I just kept getting better and better. And somehow the public liked the fact, but they could see I'd never danced before. And it used to be when the show was about, the public's vote was important and not the judge getting the final vote. And so I won the show on the back of being popular, which was a great compliment. And when you look around my house, there's not many things in this room, my office here, that would represent my life. I've got an England cap, which is down there waiting to go on the wall. I've got a picture of Sebi Ballesteros, one of my sporting heroes. I've got the hat-trick, which is above me. And that is it. I've got the Strictly trophies. So I've got 3 Strictly trophies here, which is 2 Christmas specials, as you said, and the main glitter ball. The main glitter ball is here. It's slightly damaged. So here it is. That's the main glitter ball. But it's always a party piece, and it's broke now because when everybody ever comes to my house, not though anybody's ever been to my house for 12 months, but when people used to come to the house, all they want to see is the Strictly Come Dancing trophy, and they take photos of it. I've got England caps here and stuff like that, but they're not interested in that. All they want to see is the Strictly trophy and the glitter ball.
Thank you.
So the answer to the question,
Yes.
What means more to me is the 6 for 49. But to everyone else, I think it was winning Strictly Come Dancing.
What an excellent answer. What an excellent question as well. Thank you very much, Paul. I think Peter Richardson now wants to take you back to your county career. Peter.
Yes, so, as always, as an Essex fan, Darren, I always ask the Essex question. But in 2004, for well-documented reasons, you left Yorkshire and you decided to join a side which was going through a bad patch in the 2nd division of the county championship, but nevertheless still had a successful one-day team in all formats. You spent 3 successful seasons with us, 82 first-class wickets at 27.47 and 613 runs and 36.88. We also won the Totes Sport League in 2005 and the NatWest Pro 40 in 2006 and a runners-up spot in your last year. And I believe you got back in the England one-day squad as well. We were very disappointed when you left us. David East, our chief exec, said you gave outstanding service, was an excellent person on the field and a major influence on the younger players. So my questions are, why Essex? What was your role there? Did you enjoy your time there? Any amusing memories of your time there? And where did you live?
Well, there's a lot going on. Essex was absolutely a tremendous time. And I saw this, and it was nothing to do with money. I can assure you, and I'm pretty honest with it, and I'm pretty open. When I decided to leave Yorkshire, I obviously was a time where my knees were shot. I retired from Test cricket, but I still had a lot to offer. I had to be managed well, but I still had a lot to offer, and I still had huge skills. I was batting at 3 in one-day cricket, and obviously my skills still to bowl Yorkers and bowling one-day cricket, and the skills and the variation. So I had quite a few offers. The biggest offer financially was with Warwickshire. It would have been on more than I was getting at Yorkshire, which was a decent whack. So they offered me a lot more money than any other county. And I chose Essex purely because I could get there quite easily from where I live, which is in North Bucks. And the players that were there, and a smaller club without going to a huge club with a test following, as in a test ground, I wanted to experience why I love cricket in the first place, without that extra pressure of playing at a test match ground. And there is a difference. There's a huge, huge difference. It's a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more enjoyable. There's not as much pressure. But the main reason I went to Essex was a few things. Paul Grayson was there. He was my best man when I got married. Ronnie Irani, I played with England under 19s with him and played with him, or against him and with him many, many times. James Middlebrook, who was a Yorkshireman whose dad was one of my first coaches on the Yorkshire Academy. So there was a kind of a group of players who I wanted to be, and a county I wanted to be part of, and I bought into it. And the team we had during that 3 years was an unbelievable team. When I think back, that Essex, especially one-day cricket, were almost unbeatable for 2 years with myself, the Flower brothers, Ronnie Irani, Graham Napier, Foster, Tendescata. We had Canaria before he got done. We had Andy Bickle came over and represented Essex. We had such a Paul Grayson, a good one-day cricketer, James Middleton, Phillips, left-arm spinner. I can go on and on and on. That was an excellent team. It really, really was. And we were a difficult side to beat. When I went there, they actually did say the role was to play as much as I can without being pushed. If I felt I needed that game off, was to take that game off. And I think we got it right over the 3 years. I performed nearly in every single one-day game, played every one-day game, and missed only I only missed a few 4-day games, didn't I, in that period. And the plan was to win a competition. We won 2, and to get promoted, which they did. So it was mission achieved, and they offered me a new 3-year contract. And I went back to Yorkshire purely because it was Colin Graves that just was on my case every single day. Yorkshire were in a bad place. They weren't playing good cricket. I was vice captain at Essex, and I had done captaincy when Ronnie had not played, and they offered me the captaincy, and I kind of couldn't turn it down. And it was sad because I had such a good time at Essex, but I left to go back to Yorkshire. The funny thing is, I had a house there at the cricket ground, the flats there. Yeah. And I probably only slept in it in 3 years about 5 times. But I will tell you, all the young lads, all the young single lads loved it. They were like being in a beefer. They were like being in a beefer for them boys. I just gave them the keys and they looked after it for me for 3 years. So that was good. But honestly, those times I never forget. Good players, good club. Very professional. And I think what they'll tell you, those guys, as well about me, and Warwickshire said exactly the same thing. I represented myself in these meetings, and I've got an agent. I've had an agent for years and years and years, but I never let them get involved with my cricket, as in they never start negotiating my cricket contracts. And I negotiated all my cricket contracts. I was honest and upfront, and they were honest and upfront with me. And it was so smooth. Warwickshire thanked me for the way I handled that situation, and I turned them down. and Essex couldn't believe, but I turned up to a meeting. They had about 5 people there, Gucci and Fletch and David East and a couple of others, Paul Grayson, and I rocked up on myself. You know what I mean? So Essex is a terrific club, and I'm so pleased they're doing so well at this moment in time. Chris Silverwood did a great job there. Paul Grayson started it. He don't get really the credit he probably deserves. A few things went on there, didn't they, right at the end? Silvers Kevin did a fantastic job, and Anthony McGrath. They're like a Yorkshire connection, don't they? Anthony McGrath's come in and just carried it on, and they play some really, really good cricket. And we had Alistair Cook, obviously, coming through as a youngster as well. I remember bowling him in the nets my first day and thinking, and I said to Ronnie, right, this is the next big thing, is it? I said, and I gave him 45 minutes like he's never had a workout before. But that's what I was there to do. I was there to push the youngsters, push them to the limit, test them, show them what it's all about at the highest level. It's not all about being bowling at 90 miles an hour, but it's about the intensity of your practice, intensity of your performance. And I'd like to think I brought that professionalism to Essex. And I think they've carried that on. And that's the way I am. People just think I'm and they always have, but if you speak to a lot of ex-cricketers who played with me, said, but I was so talented, I didn't really need to do this, I didn't need to do that. I was one of them who didn't need to practice for 2 weeks, but I could just rock up and play. Yes, I could, but I never did. I smashed it. When I practiced, practiced with 100% intensity most of the time when I could. Towards the end of my career, I obviously had to plan it slightly better. But the funny thing about Essex, just finally, was it was a case of I ended up with a gold car on air miles. Me and Ronnie Arani every Monday used to fly to Germany, to Munich, to see Dr. Muller-Woolfart, because that's the only way I could play for an extra 4 years. I saw that Usain Bolt did a documentary on Netflix, and he said he wouldn't have had the career he had if it wasn't for a doctor called Hans Muller-Woolfart in Munich. Well, I think that's the same of me, Ronnie Arani, Jamie Redknapp, Les Ferdinand, Hutchinson, who played at West Ham. Every Monday morning, we used to get the EasyJet flight over to Munich, injected, and come back and play the next day. So my time at Essex was spent at Stansted Airport, going to Munich every Monday, and the rest of it was playing cricket and having a great time.
Thanks very much indeed, Darren. Brilliant answer.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Darren. Right, so Max Sawyer next. He's got a couple of questions for you. We're going to come back to Max at the end for his second question. I think the first one he wants to ask you about your bowling style in T20s. Max.
Don't have Max, James. I have been trying to send you messages.
Okay.
No sign
All right.
of
let me ask Max's question for you. I didn't understand it when he first asked it, but I think I do now. And John Fingleton can help me out if I get it wrong. He asked that if you were bowling in a T20 and could land every ball you delivered exactly where you wanted it to, what would your plan be? Yes. I think he's talking about how would you soften a batsman up?
Yeah, well, what he said, well, there's no point asking John that, is there? Because he hates T20 cricket, so there's no point asking Fingers about T20. But I think what it comes down to is still, for me, in T20 cricket, and it's not done enough, people talk about hitting zones. There is an hitting zone in cricket, exactly. The modern-day cricketer plays 360 degrees. But you look in one-day cricket still, the best bowlers in T20 cricket and in 50-over cricket bowl the good Yorker. It is still the perfect delivery. Now and again, somebody will ramp it and get it on the full toss and it's a fine four. But I'd rather them do that and do something out of their comfort zone than keep lamping me back over my head when I don't get it light and try these stupid slower ball bouncers and slower balls back of the length and keep getting smashed back over long on for 6. So many times. Bowling Yorkers is an art. Bowling Yorkers is a skill. You have to practice it. You deliver it under pressure. You practice under pressure. I used to practice under a traffic light system. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's different colours represented different deliveries. Under pressure, in my bowling action, the final second before you bowl. And people who can do that are still the best performers in the one-day game. and that is obviously including T20s.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, so the next question we've got then comes from Derek Wheeler. Derek.
Hi, hello, Darren. Thanks for coming. Fingers has already stolen my thunder. I wanted to thank you for two great test match moments. The one was that catch you took right in front of me. I was in the Allen stand. It's even funnier in the replay. You see my wife leaping from the seat cheering. And the second was the second day when you and Corky put on 31 to win the game. And it was a fabulous, it was a great day. And thanks very much for that. I do listen to you on Talk Sport, and I'm interested in your comments about the IPL. And I've been watching the IPL for the last week. I get my other friends here at the MCC disown me because of this, apart from Stuart. But the last week, I've seen some fantastic cricket. The other night, I think Sampson playing for Rajasthan was caught on the boundary when he had to get 6. And then last night, when I think it was
Morris.
It was they won in the last over. Poor old Tom Curran got hit for I think 19 or something. And the other thing I'm enjoying with the IPL is they keep these young Indian cricketers I've never heard of appear on a debut, whatever. So my question really is this: would it have been wiser for the ECB to have enhanced the T20 blast with links, maybe even, God forbid, to the IPL, rather than trying the new concept of the 100?
Well, firstly, of course, I love the Vitality Blast. I think it's a fantastic tournament, T20. But when it comes down to the 100, I think it's got to the stage now. I think all the bodge job around the 100 for me was the build up to it and the announcement of it and the confusion around it. Now it's just about here. I'm actually quite excited about it. I'm not into all this stuff like outs rather than wickets, but I'm actually excited for the 100. But the problem they're going to have, right, and I totally get you with the IPL. I've never been to it, to India. I've had a chance a couple of times to go. Never been. I never played in it because it started when I retired. But I've been fascinated by the standard I've seen over the past 2 seasons, and it's growing every single year. You can see why the English boys want to play in it, because they're getting paid loads and loads of money to be playing with some of the best players in the world. The best teams in the IPL all have a strong Indian contingent in their side. And I think that's what's obvious to me when I look down the teams and I look how strong they are. And they are, every single year, showing us player after player after player who can come and perform and with no nerves whatsoever, nerves of steel, get thrown into a test match and deliver. Axar Patel, look at him in the test series, the left arm spinner, came in, purely his performances through the IPL. Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav. You can go on and on and on. Washington Sundar. These guys know how to play cricket, and they get into the international arena and they have no fear to perform whatsoever. But the reason we're not going to have an IPL, and we never will have an IPL, is because Indian cricket dominate world cricket. And there's no way they're going to allow any Indian cricketer come to England to play, or loads of them to come and play in a franchise type competition, which might take the gloss away from the IPL. They've just signed, was it 2 years ago, the biggest broadcast deal ever in sport. They're not going to want to give the ECB the opportunity to do exactly the same by letting all those great cricketers from India come and play in our competition, domestic competition. It's not going to happen. And that's the only sad thing about the 100 or the Vitality Blast. But we're not going to see the best players in the world. They can dress it up how they want, saying it's the best players in the world, but it's not. We haven't got one Indian cricketer coming over to play in the 100. And I don't think we might have one playing in the Vitality Blast. I'm not quite sure, but we might have one because they don't allow them. Just they want the IPL to remain the biggest competition in the world.
Darren, can I tell you a story? I've told this to several of my friends. 2007, I'm at an MCC anniversary dinner with my friend Daniel Flower, who I can't see on the scorp here. a senior MCC executive joined us at our table, and he apologised. He said, "I'm awfully sorry, gentlemen. I'm hungover and I'm jet lagged because yesterday evening I was at the inaugural final of the IPL. I was in a box with all these Bollywood stars and entrepreneurs, and I was asked if we went down a franchise route with the T20 in the UK, how much money would you need to have a club called Lords of London?" And this guy turned around, he said 20 million, and they said, "You have it." And we had a very, very good chief exec at MCC in those days called Keith Bradshaw. Keith came up with an idea with the then CEO of Surrey for a franchise tied up with the IPL, which would allow this movement between players. And when it was announced on the test match Saturday, and I remember seeing Keith Bradshaw in a state of shock outside the pavilion. And what happened was that Giles Clark was then the ECB guy, and he turned around and they threw this idea out because they had Sanford, who was going to bring the £1 million match. So it's in hindsight, I know it's a true story. I heard that it wasn't in 2007. Maybe it would never have worked, but I just sometimes think it's just such a shame that Keith couldn't take that vision forward. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah, the IPL
Derek,
is special.
sorry.
The IPL is special.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Thanks indeed, Darren. Right, a slightly off the wall question now from John Hegarty. John.
Hi, Darren. We almost played golf once. It was a Betfair Pro-Am, and I was down to play with you, and our host switched us about half hour before the tee time, and I ended up playing with Gordon Brand Jr.
Where was that at? Ambry Manor?
Yeah, yeah, super course. Loved it. Anyway, my question, Peter Hart started off and talked about your sting on the pitch. Perhaps you could tell us about being stung off the pitch.
What do you mean? Like
when you were stung by a scorpion?
Oh, yeah, the scorpion is a true story. It's quite well, it was quite frightening at the time because I go over to South Africa quite a bit. I do a lot, as I said, for Care for Wild. I'm at a rhino sanctuary. I've got friends over there now. I've got farms in the middle of Kruger, which are quite isolated. You're miles away from any hospital or wherever it is. So you have to have your wits about you. You're in the middle of Kruger. So there is lions. We've got electric fencing that's about 3 foot high. That's it. So you're always wary on an evening, animals about and stuff like that. And friends of mine, we see little scorpions as you're going, walking back to your room. They light up with these torches you have. So I went back to my room. It's obviously a house. The lodgers there, aren't there? So the lighthouses, you slide back the door and that's shut it straight away because you have to be quick when you get into your room because you never know what's there. It's quite dark. So I get into bed and I've just fallen asleep. And then suddenly it was pitch black. Something I felt crawling. You know, you felt something in your chest and you're half asleep and I just went like that with my hand. And it stung me right here on the chest. I was like, my original thoughts when it happened, my missus was at the side of me, was I thought it was a snake originally. Honestly, I was scared to death as day. So I jumped up and flicked the light on. And it was there, the scorpion. Well, I couldn't see anything. All I could see was 2 little marks there. And I said, I've been bitten, I've been stung, I've been whatever I have. Because they've just been joking with me. If you ever get bit by a scorpion there, you'll be dead within 30 minutes if it's the poisonous one. So the hilarious thing is, but I told my missus and she didn't believe me. So I'm looking for this scorpion. I picked up the pillow and it was there. And I saw it. So being an idiot, I tried to stab it with my phone. I had my mobile phone in my hand and I just went like that. And I was trying to squeeze it into the covers. And then I went, all right, that's it, you're dead. And as I lifted off the phone, it just scrolled off and I couldn't catch it. And I don't know where it went. So I literally spent 30 minutes to see if I was going to die because I was miles away from an hospital. And when I didn't die and I realized it wasn't a poisonous one, it was of huge relief and enjoyment. And it hurt for probably 24 hours. And it does sting, let me assure you. I've been stung by a bee and a wasp, whatever it may be, but a scorpion sting is pretty painful, and it didn't take me back, and it's made me more wary. The next day, I actually got up as well. This was the next day. I went up to get a shower, and all the showers are outside. So I went to get a shower, and I was having a shower. I was stood there, and I looked up, and luckily it was a good, well, 3-4 meters higher than me. In a tree, there was a bumslinger, which is a green snake, which have got like, they sting you from the back. And he was just there looking at me, watching me, this snake. And that just, I said, get me home. I'm not meant to be at this spot at this moment in time. So a scorpion followed by a bumslinger the next day. Thankfully, I didn't get stung by that. But yeah, interesting. Nature at its very best.
Thanks, Darren. Scary stuff. I think I'd be more scared of you on the pitch, though.
Yeah, you should be if I've got a ball in my hand.
Thank you. The next question. Noel Kearns is going to ask the next question. He's going to ask something that I'd like to ask you. So, Noel, go ahead.
Thank you very much, James. Good afternoon. Good evening, Darren. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, sir?
Not so bad. You mentioned North Bucks earlier. I'm a Bletchley boy.
Oh, you're a Bletchley boy? Are you in Bletchley now?
No, I'm in a place called Godmanchester in Huntingdon.
Oh,
but yeah,
I'm not far from Bletchley, about 6 or 7 miles, 8 miles.
Well, I played as a colt right through to the first team for many years at Bletchley Town, but that was at the old Manor Fields, of course, before Campbell Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely time, because that was an outer county ground for Northants. We had West Indies there twice, as it happens. Anyway, wow. Are you enjoying North Bucks?
Yeah, lived here since 2001. Absolutely. I love it here. I think there's one more move in me at some point. I don't know when. I've always had this dream, well, not a dream, but I've always had this the last few years. I say I've grown closer to nature. But I'd like to live somewhere like Pembrokeshire or up in Scotland, in the islands, and have a few sheep and a couple of cows and a couple of horses and a couple of pigs and just live the simple life. There's one more move in me. I don't know when it'll be, but there's one more in me, definitely.
I'm glad you're happy where you are as well. Yeah. Right, on to my question. I want to take you back 26 years. The New Year's Ashes test at Sydney, 1995.
Yeah.
Athers, Hick, 2:59 p.m. declaration, Hick on 98, not out. It's obviously been covered in the press and lots of times, but what I'd like to know, and the person that come up with the question with me, a guy called Dave Humphries, could be here tonight, is what was the dressing room like? What were your thoughts, and what was really going on in the dressing room? Maybe what hasn't come out before, but you know, what was your feeling? Well,
we were all, I say for me, I really had no kind of interest about other. Graham was going through a period of his life with his bat in hand, where he was very adamant where he wanted to bat it, and he hated a change. Right, he started to there was a lot of self-doubt going on with Graham, right? He is an unbelievable cricketer, and if he played in this modern day era, Graham Hick would be going for millions in the IPL. Him and Rampakash are the two players who played in this modern day. They were great county cricketers, but they never really probably got to the level everybody expected them to get at the test level. But I think they both would achieve that now in this era. I honestly do, because they get continuity in selection. That is the biggest thing. But during that test match, it was kind of weird, wasn't it? Because Graham Hick played so well. And he had been told in no uncertain terms, but he'd got so many overs to get to his 100. Now, if you remember that game, the closer he got, he started shutting shot, because he started to, I said, the doubt became there. He was so determined to get 100. And it started to play on his mind, and he stopped playing his natural game. And others kept telling him and telling him and telling him. And do you know something? Fair play to others in the end. I would have probably, as a captain, been more of a team man. I would have probably let Graham get his 100. But others had told him and told him and told him, and then just made the call. And it was an ice cold dressing room, as you can imagine. Graham was pretty angry. Didn't say anything. He wasn't that type of guy to stand up and shout and bawl. But you could see in his face he wasn't happy whatsoever. And I think we were all in pretty shocked. But others, like I said, for the way he is, others is a very. I struggled to play under Mike's captaincy. Not play. I enjoyed Mike's company, and he was a terrific player. But I needed a captain along the Hussein mold who kind of pushed me to the limit and questioned me and put me in positions where I never felt comfortable about my position. But others was totally opposite. Others was kind of university educated. He knew what he wanted to do. He was picking up off the back of a negative England side that lost a lot of cricket. He didn't take over the captaincy probably at a great time, and it scarred him, I would say, a little bit. So he was pretty. He wasn't someone who, as a captain, really inspired me as an individual, and I needed that. So, but as a teammate and as a bloke, he's a great bloke. But for the captaincy, when he took over, he was always trying to do something to create a spark, and it never actually happened. It never happened. Hussein took over, and things happened very, very quickly. And that was the start of England going on to be successful. Michael Vaughan took a lot of the credit in 2005, but trust me, the rebuild was going on long before that. It started around 97, all the way through to 2000, until Vaughan took over in 2003. I think he took over, didn't he? That rebuild was in place well before that. But yeah, so the dressing room was icy. But Graham Mick, being Graham Mick, wouldn't have said anything. If that would have been against Alex Stewart, now the whole world would have known. But Graham Mick very much dealt with it. You could tell he was angry, but he never was one for confrontation. If that would have been against me or me or Stewart or Rampikash or someone like that, or Thorpe, it might have been a different ball game. But Graham Mick he's not confrontational whatsoever.
Understood. But what about, was there a division in the dressing room at all?
No, because we had a chance to win the game. That's why we declared. If we didn't win in the end, did it? It was 94, because I think it was, we had a great chance to win the game. I think somebody dropped a catch, wasn't it? Was it Gucci or dropped a catch of Devon or something like that? Or Devon dropped a catch of Gucci, I think. It was the other way around. We had a chance to win that game. And to be fair, you go all the way back, we should have won that game. But because we didn't, questions were asked, wasn't it? And it always became an issue after that. But like I said, anybody else, it might have been an issue. Hickey never was going to be an issue. Let's say not confrontational. Me would have been a different issue. I would have probably grabbed him by the neck and thrown him around the dressing room.
Thanks, Noel, and thanks, Darren. Our next question comes from my other co-host, Stuart Lewis. Stuart.
Hi, Darren. Really enjoying what you're sharing with us tonight. It's great. We've talked rightly about your cricket career. You're now established a career in broadcasting, of course. And I guess my two questions are about that. What are the main things you've learned about keys to broadcasting, and which colleagues have been most helpful to you?
Oh, do you know something? It's a good question, this, purely because I was thinking about this the other day. One of my issues with cricket, right, is people leave the game or they retire. They don't take time out to go and experience other things in life. Go and see how the real world, come out of that bubble of the cricket world, whether it be at Yorkshire, Lancashire, Essex, Middlesex, Surrey. Go and get another job and experience real life. Getting the train to work, getting the tube in rush hour, going and having to deliver every single day, working in an environment, a mixed environment. Because cricket for me is just people that go out and play 15 years as long as they can as a professional till they're not good enough anymore, and then they try and grab a job as a coach. and stick onto that coach's job for another 40 years. And they don't actually see anything from outside that bubble. And it happens mainly in county cricket, where it's the same people from being 17 years old all the way through to them being 50 or 60. And they get quite blinded. I'd like to see people come out of the game, leave their county, either go coach at a different county or do something else in life, like myself has done. Very fortunate, I got a broadcasting job, like Flintoff has done, like Vaughan has done, and people like that. Because you can easily go back to coaching. We never lose that skill. I'm a qualified coach. I'm a level 3 coach. I've been with England as a consultant coach. But broadcasting has taught me so many different things about life and how and what real life is about. I'm not in that bubble of being a cricketer, traveling with England, not even, you know what I mean, taking your suitcase to your room, from meals being prepared for you every single day, from your flight, your passport being given back to you just before you get on a flight. I'm now doing things, and I have done for 12 years as a broadcaster. I had to go out and do broadcasting, talk sport, and it is called talk sport, but let's be honest about it, it's mainly talk football. It was when I joined. It's become a little bit more cricket over the past few years. We started doing a few test matches, which I've thoroughly enjoyed getting back into it. But learning to be a broadcaster in a football world and being accepted, for me, is one of the biggest challenges I've had in my life. And I've done it 12 years, and I still will get the odd person on social media say, what does he know about football? Well, probably exactly the same as the people, in fact, more than the people who are sending that message, because I've worked in football 12 years. You know what I mean? I know a lot about Premier League football, especially. So I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being accepted. I've been enjoying winning awards and being nominated for awards over the years. But I miss cricket, mate. I do miss it. Missed it a lot of late. I'm 50 now, and I'm thinking, my head's spinning, thinking, right, I've did this consulting work with England. I can't do that full time. It's too much time away from home. That's not for me. But these tournaments, like the 100, I would have loved a job at one of the franchises. I would have loved an ambassador role, a coaching role, director of cricket role. But they went for all overseas coaches, which really, really frustrated me, because I thought that was an opportunity for them to give people that have not come through the system, as in stayed in cricket their whole life and they're in that bubble, to get some different energy into the game, make it a different tournament, not someone who's been round the world doing franchise to franchise to franchise, and all they're interested in is that the money side of the game. People like me are interested in the process, the passion of being involved in a cricket team, selecting a team, the dynamics and how it's going to work, picking the right players, who's going to open the batting, what sort of setup do I want, what spinners do I want, what fast bowlers do I want, what middle order I do I want. So I was usually disappointed they didn't look for people like myself and your Flintoffs and those sort of people, and Kevin Petersons, who have a huge passion for the game and have got a lot to offer, but have been out of it. Do you know where I'm coming from? We're almost being,
makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
we're almost being alienated purely because we've not stayed in the cricket bubble, which is not the right way to go. And fair play to England, they realised that and they got me involved over in New Zealand. But it's just not a job I could take. It's not a job that I wanted to be away from home for 220 days a year. It just wasn't for me at that moment in time.
That's fascinating. Thanks.
Thanks, Stuart. Do we have Danny, Paul? He was here. Not sure if he's here.
Yes.
Danny.
Yes.
Hi, Danny.
Yes, you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Darren, what I'd like to know is, all the places you've been, what was your favourite ground you played at?
Wow. Well, listen, Headingley, you've got to say Headingley because that's on my home ground, isn't it? But realistically, Lords, I've got a great record there. Obviously got great memories, some great games there of cricket. I love Sydney. Again, I think you'll always get with me. You'll get the grounds where I've done well at, mate. Because there's grounds that I've hated that I've not done so well at. And it's purely because I've not done so well at. But so I'll tell you what I did like. You remember the old Candy ground? I did well there, those. But you remember Candy, the old university ground before the one they've got now? That was a terrific little ground. Really enjoyed my time there. That was a real good spot. If I could pick a pretty ground in London, in England, I'd love playing at Worcester. Didn't have a great record against Worcester, but I did love their ground. But yeah, Lords, you can't go past Lords. I mean, if you could only play, you ask most cricketers, if you can only play one test match, where do you want to play? And I think everyone would say Lords. I honestly do. I think everyone would say Lords.
I think I agree with you. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Danny. Right, next question is from Ben Knighton. Ben. Is Ben Knighton there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
You already began to answer it, but the comparison was not quite made, Darren. Which county did you enjoy playing for more, Yorkshire or Essex?
Well, let me say, right, you might not be able to believe this, and not many people will believe this. I'd never watched Yorkshire play until I played for Yorkshire, because cricket wasn't in my life, so I didn't know the importance of Yorkshire cricket. I honestly didn't. My dad's never been a cricket fan, didn't play the game. My mum has no idea what cricket was. She was a midwife. She had no interest in cricket. So I didn't understand how much it meant to people within Yorkshire, what it was to play for Yorkshire, until I played. But I was immensely proud that it took me, although disappointed on the same in the same hand, that it took me I remember Debbie 89, I didn't get capped till 1993. So the fact it took me 4 years to get me my cap made me really appreciate playing for Yorkshire. So I've got to say, those early years of playing there as someone who really had no idea of how big a deal it was, were fascinating and frustrating. Essex was a time of my career where I wasn't worried about anything. I wasn't worried what anyone said. I was there to enjoy it. And I had 3 very enjoyable, fun years. But I would have to say, representing Yorkshire, after realizing what it meant when I got that cap at Scarborough in 1993, although I was annoyed, but other people got their cap before me who didn't quite do as much as I'd already done for my county. The day I got that cap, that meant everything.
Thanks, Darren. Difficult question for you to answer that one, I would imagine. We're going to go back to Peter Hart now, because he's going to ask a question that I think everybody who's been listening to you has been wanting to ask. And please be quite frank with us. So, Peter, would you like to ask the question that's on everybody's lips?
Darren, what did you say at Melbourne Boxing Day Test 98-99 when you held the stump in the air, having got Glenn McGrath LBW and won the match by 12 runs?
I told him where to stick that ass. To stick that stump.
You did,
stick
did you?
that stump up your me, because we had been told we were the worst team ever to tour Australia. And they were chasing 170 odd, and we bowled them out for 130 odd, I think, or something. I don't know the exact score, but that was an unbelievable day, a long day in the field. Dean Headley was magnificent. I got the last 2 wickets, the tail enders, and took the glory. But I didn't get 5 for in the first innings, which nobody seems to remember. I took the wickets when it was hard in the first innings, and it was flat. But Dean Headley's spell on that second innings was just out of this world, and that's why I talk about the bowlers I'd like to have played more with: Dean Headley, Dominic Cook, Andrew Caddick, and myself. Those four bowlers had a bit of everything. They had some pace. Yeah, we didn't have outright pace. We didn't have a Steve Armisen. We didn't have a Devon Malcolm. But those four in that 90s period should have played together. Should have, but never did.
Thank you for that. Thank you for answering that question. Right, it's 7 o'clock. Have we got time for just one more quick one? I think we're going to go back to John Wilson. John.
Darren, only because I'm scared of fingers, I won't ask my question about VAR because I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan. My question is a cricket question instead. It's a bigger challenge to answer quickly, but give us your immediate thoughts. So what changes would you make to the long form of county cricket to improve the appeal of the game, audiences, broadcasters, etc., whilst at the same time helping develop future England players for whom I feel, others feel, the step up to Test cricket, Dan Lawrence's side, often appears vast. They're not playing with the international players anymore to the same extent. They're not getting England players on central contracts, rotating into play with them, nurture them, etc. So what would you do? Two aspects. One is to make it more appealing for the long form of county cricket. And secondly, also help develop those future England players, develop the necessary skills to step up.
Well, my biggest bugbear in county cricket, and I've been quite outspoken on it on TalkSport over the years, and it's such a big frustration. I believe the standard has gone down purely because the pitches we're playing on. The biggest thing they've got to do is improve the pitches. Look at the scores that have been going about these first two county championship games because they're flat. The bowlers are nowhere because we've got no real skillful bowlers coming through because they're used to bowling on absolute minefields, and they have done now for the last 4 or 5 years. The problem with the county championship is every county wants to win it. Only one can win it. The ones in Division 2 are desperate to get promoted to Division 1. And they know every other county is going to be preparing. There's not one county prepare good pitches because they know every other county is not going to over-prepare their pitches. They're going to under-prepare. The first game, you know you're going to get a result because every single game, normally, in a normal season, you will see 15, 17 wickets falling on the first day. It's ridiculous. I saw over the last couple of years, there's been a few games that have finished in under 2 days, 4 innings. We've seen it in a test match, India preparing pitches to finish that are not suitable for test cricket. You don't mind the ball spinning. You expect it to spin when you go to India on day 3. You expect it to be really hard to bat against. Day 4, you expect it to be as it was on day 2 in India. And it's the same in county cricket. You expect the ball to swing. You expect it to seam a little bit. What I don't expect is to swing round corners both ways, seam both ways, and average cricketers taking wickets. Our spin bowlers then are not getting the opportunity to bowl and bowl spin and get seen and bowl enough overs to get their duty. The only reason you're going to get an opportunity to bowl spin is if you play at Somerset and they prepare spinning pitches from day 1, and then they get fined and done points because they prepare a Turner, where we are developing spinners. Bess and Leach are England's spinners purely because they play at Somerset. So I believe England's selection now is being made on where you play. A lot of Surrey batsmen get picked for England because they're playing on the flattest pitch in the country. You expect them to get the most runs. A lot of bowlers are bowlers that are playing on pitches that seem more than anywhere else. And guess what? They get picked for England. So I just don't think we get the balance right on the pitches because there's so much at stake. Teams desperate to get promoted because they know they're going to win. There's no point back again going 4 days right down to the end and winning by virtue of being better team over 4 days. They need that first day purely to be 17, 18 wickets go. So you're halfway through the game in day 1 and they're scared about the weather. That'd be my big thing. The pitches, Our bowlers would instantly get better bowling at batsmen. The thing is then, all batsmen would probably get runs, not all of them, obviously, but they would get more runs and they'd have a better chance of playing for their country rather than be the guys who are playing at Surrey, who all the batters would be the ones, or Kent, and these sort of pitches will get the first opportunities to play for England. And it's almost becomes a northern bowling lineup and a southern batting lineup. Do you know what I mean? That's what England's obviously, I think it's become. That's what it's almost become, except for Joe Root.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for that question, John. And thank you so much, Darren, for giving up your time for us this evening. Thanks also to all of you who have asked the questions and those who have been able to join us tonight. I'm going to ask John Fingleton to say a few closing remarks and to let you know of the future events we have to look forward to. When he's finished, please would you all unmute yourselves so we can give Darren a well-deserved warm round of applause. Fingers.
Thank you, James. And can I just put one thing right for the record, Dazzler? Fingers doesn't hate 2020. He goes to every 2020 match at Lord's, only at Lord's, mind you, but he considers it not to be cricket, it's slogathon. But it's very good entertainment. I've got nothing against that part.
Oh, good. I got it wrong then. I just didn't think you
well, I used to, but I've learned it's good entertainment. What he does hate is the tube in Russia, and he hasn't done that since 1985. But you've been very forthcoming, very entertaining. I know that Ian McGee will be very pleased at the way you've acted like a true Yorkshireman, and I think he's probably pleased about your comments on Yorkshire against Essex. But it has been a joy to listen to you, and we're really grateful for you giving up the time and coming along and talking to us. Just to warn you, I'm in Leighton Buzzard tomorrow, so if you see me around, come and buy me a drink.
I'm in Leamington Spa.
You're getting away from me. And now, as far as the future programme is concerned, most of you know most of it, but there has been one addition today. Coming up on Tuesday, the 4th of May, we've got Ted Dexter. And then we've got an additional one on Friday, the 10th of May. Charlie Sale, who is probably known to some of you, who has just written and is about to have published a book called The Covers Are Off, about MCC and mainly
Not another book, bloody hell.
Not another book, bloody hell. He is going to come and talk about his book on Monday the 17th of May. No, Monday the 10th of May. Sorry, let's get it right. Yeah. Then on the 17th of May, we've got Mike Brearley. And on ending our season, as it were, on Friday the 28th of May, we've got Mikey Holdridge. So that's 4 more to come this month. And then we'll probably take a break until the autumn. But this season has been wonderful and none better, I think, than Dazzler. Darren, thank you very much for making such a wonderful evening of it.
Just before we start the round of applause, I think you said 26th of April for Ted Dexter. Thank you very much.
Sorry, May. I got that wrong, yes.
Yes. Thanks, Darren. Thank you. And thanks, everybody.
I'm off to drink my wine.
So we'll see you on the 26th of April for Ted Dexter. 26th of
I wrote
April.
it down wrong. Yeah.
It's nice, isn't it? You enjoy that.
See you all then. Goodbye.
Darren, thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Bye.